muted, so just keep that in mind.
Welcome to the Identity Podcast right here. We're so excited to be able to kick this off here, and as we continue the month of May. It's been a crazy week, I think, for all, but we're excited to be able to be here again, and every single week, of course, Wednesdays at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, right here live on the Identity Podcast Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch pages. We are here for the Identity Podcast, brought to you by Find Your ID NYC. Of course, don't forget to check us out on all social media platforms at the Identity Podcast, and check out our podcast available on all streaming platforms such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Of course, the Identity Podcast. If you love the Identity Podcast and want to sponsor us, well, you can. All you have to do is email us at press@findyourdnyc.com, and we'll get back to you with more details via that. So that's pretty cool. And of course, as always, you can shop the Identity Podcast merch on Teespring. Link is in the IG bio and our link tree as well. And of course, don't forget to check out our sponsorship with Brick Media. Every Tuesday, the Identity Podcast, a new episode brought to you right there. Of course, you're watching the Identity Podcast. I am Caleb, one of your co-hosts, along with my fellow and lovely co-host, Tarek. We're so excited to be here to be able to talk about this really, really important subject, something that we've been wanting to talk about for a while, but we're really grateful to have Kyle on here from Puzzlelife.voice to be able to come here and talk about autism awareness. So welcome, Kyle. We're so grateful to have you on the show.
King.
And we can't wait to discover everything that you have to say.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you both for having me, number one. And I also want to thank you for using your platform to have powerful conversations like these. So I commend you both for podcasts like this. We need more conversations like this. So once again, thank you for having me today.
Of course, man. Thanks for joining us, man. How was your day so far? I know this was a bit last minute, but he came through because I know this is a warrior. All of our guests have been, in their own right, their own thing, but you definitely embody the idea of a warrior in so many different rights. And I appreciate that, true kings.
So Prince has been all right today. So far, so good. But that's one thing about a warrior. When I say warrior, to me, I define myself as an autism warrior, because as you can see behind me, the silhouette behind me, that is my wife, my lovely wife, and our princess. That's Courtney, one of the beautiful people that we fight for. And when I say one, I don't just fight for my daughter. I fight for everybody on the spectrum, child, young adult, because being an advocate, there's no way in the world you should just be fighting for one individual, knowing there's so many individuals that's living the same journey that you're living. So that's what gives me energy when I wake up during the morning. I'm excited. My first blessing of the day, every day, and I always say, is waking up and having life. And after that, it's up to me to make sure that I get the information and I get the message out.
Yeah, that's so true, man. I normally what we do with our show, I like to say that we kind of ask people about their identity and how they identify. But I think this show is very special because you represent sometimes people that can't express their identities, and yet they still vibrate at a frequency that that there's a God. So I'm curious, kind of the start of your journey, and what did you know about? Because your Puzzlelife is actually about all disabilities. It's not just about autism, but autism is something that you've learned over the years with Princess. If anyone knows, Princess is his daughter, his lovely daughter. He's always showing images. He has the gloves and everything. That's her in the image right there. I mean, if you ever see just images, I've never met her in person, but just see images, you could just see her spirit is just beyond, something to be thought about, right? And obviously, your partner as well. Keeping that going. But I was curious to say kind of where you started. All of us definitely don't have as much passion or fervor yet about this. So how did you learn about disabilities? What was your first interactions with that? And how did it lead to autism?
Well, us rather. Well, my wife and I, after Courtney's first vaccine, let me just get right into it. I have a thing about vaccines. And when I say I have a thing about vaccines, I always use the word I, because I'm not speaking for anyone who takes vaccines or whatever the case may be. That's your prerogative. Our journey began after Courtney's first vaccine, because before the first vaccine, this is just our opinion. This is what we've seen.
Yeah.
Courtney was following command. Courtney was following command. Courtney was she was alert. She'd give eye contact. Everything is okay. Fast forward after the vaccine, I say about maybe 24 to 48 hours. We just see that she's just more of in a daze. It's like she's just wandered. She doesn't want to give eye contact. I'm hearing a lot of like it's just, they call it jerkings now. For those don't know, a lot of people call it humming. Those on the spectrum, when you hear that's called jerkings. That's just their language. That's something that calms them down if there's too much going on as far as sensory issues. But at the age of 2, and Courtney's 2 at the time, we get called, we just feel like, things is not going right with Courtney. She's not having conversations with us. She's not giving us eye contact. So her first pediatrician, her first doctor, we bring those issues to him. And I just felt that he was just, I just feel because of where we're from, me being an African-American man married to a beautiful Latina queen, I just felt that our concerns with this specific doctor didn't matter, because he kept saying, oh, everyone learns different. Oh, everything's okay. Don't worry about it. Not really hearing us as parents telling him, now something's not right here. Something's not right. No parent wants to label their child with any label, number one. So do you know how hard it was for us to be like, okay, something's not right here? And then when we go out and try to get help and they tell us, oh, no, you're overlooking it. It's just something, you're overlooking it. You're just overlooking it. We took it upon ourselves to get a second opinion, which was the best thing that we ever did. The second opinion, that's when we found out she was diagnosed on the spectrum. It will be a long journey. She will be nonverbal. This is what they said. She will be nonverbal.
Yeah.
And
if it's ever too much, man, we can always pull back and ask other questions.
Because it's not, because at the end of the day, I'm comfortable in the journey and being a warrior, because the strength that we see within our princes just makes me stronger, amongst anything in the world. I've learned more from her than any human being in this world. And my daughter's only 10 years old. And I don't say that lightly, because when you become, when this journey hits you, the first thing you have to do is man up as a father. Because as we go through the conversation, a lot of fathers run from this journey. And you'll see that, with a lot of parents that I speak with on Autism Warrior Chronicles, a lot of fathers point fingers when this diagnosis comes. And that's something that, with conversation, we need to change, for the simple fact the doctors tell us they don't know where this comes from, right? The doctors say there's no one to blame. The doctors say it's not hereditary. So there's no way in the world you should be pointing fingers about that, this is your fault, this is your parents' fault, this is your family's fault. So I just felt like once we got the diagnosis, it was time for my wife and I, who was never educated about autism, was never educated about special needs in our community. I didn't come from a household where my mother knew about it. That's why I didn't have the conversation. So we had to do our homework. We had to channel anger into getting knowledge and wisdom. So what I did was I hit Google, I hit Facebook, I hit books. I just started reading, trying to find out why. And during the why and reading, I said, wait a minute. When we walk out the door, half of our community is not educated about autism. When we walk out the door, Princess is being stared at. And I just took why? Why is she being stared at? Because God created her uniquely different on purpose. Because I just think that every child with special needs is uniquely born different on purpose, because they outshine us. They are like one of the Autism Warriors' mom said, they are the closest things to living angels on this planet. And I say that to say this because they don't have agendas. They don't know how to wake up with hate. They don't know how to wake up and not like you, not like that person, not like the clothes you're wearing. The little things that we wake up and we bicker about. They just want to be loved and accepted. And when society doesn't accept them, it pisses me off.
I hear that.
I'm
I
sorry.
hear that completely. Nah, man, there's that. Like I said, that's why I want to describe it as a warrior, because I know how passionate you get about this subject, and amongst other things. And now you've taken on even other children along the way, and these souls that are just needing you. There's a reason why this all happened, and the reason why I started where we started, because I know for a fact, my mother comes from a social worker background, so that's why I've always known about it since a child. I've always seen, autism or the spectrum. First of all, how I was actually on your live the other day. They don't even know what it is. Let's be honest.
That's why
let's just drop that bomb. Let's just drop that bomb already.
Puzzle, right?
Exactly.
It's
They have
puzzling.
no idea what it is, and God does. And it's something about. Sorry, there's a train passing. It's something about when you're able to connect with these individuals. You're like, I'm missing something. Maybe I'm on the spectrum of morality. I need to get some stuff checked out, for sure. And I love just what has become. I love that you're able to do just contrarian thought, but not to go too far, because, we have a whole hour for this. What I was going to say was, you didn't know about this at all. And how many people in your community didn't at that particular time? Let's think about the 80s and 90s. Who was thinking about this type of stuff, man? And it was happening on a large scale. And if you even talk about just the medical industry, that's a whole nother can of worms about certain things. So I do think that.
Imagine when we went to school, our era, they called it special ed. How many kids they just sent to special ed, or how many kids that they just labeled as being bad because maybe they was hyper or overactive, and not knowing maybe they had sensory issues, maybe they had ADHD, maybe they had all these issues, but they was never diagnosed for it. So they was automatic labeled as being bad kids. And that just goes back to, like you said, in the 80s and 90s, this wasn't spoken about. It wasn't spoken about at all. And that's why a lot of people in my community have still to this day really have no idea what it is, because it's puzzling. Number one, like you said, and that's why I relate to the puzzle part of it, because some people don't like the puzzle symbol with autism. And that's all right. They can do, they have their opinion. You have the right to have your own opinion. With me, if you went on my live the other day and I put it up, it's a puzzling diagnosis. It's puzzling. Every time Princess have a meltdown and we can't really pinpoint where the meltdown's coming from, God damn it, that's puzzling. You understand? So the puzzle's going to always relate to me. That's why I'm going to relate to the puzzle. I don't relate to an infinity. I understand what they mean by the infinity now, all of a sudden, because that's the new logo for autism, is an infinity.
Okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, we all know this is forever. It's always been forever. And having conversations like this, I need society and politicians to know our kids don't stay kids forever. Where's the workshops that I'm fighting for? Where's the workshops? Like, they can't be productive in the working place. If you go outside right now, you can walk to 10 stores and you might not even find one person with special needs working in that store. Why not? There's not workshops to help our kids succeed.
Yes. And yeah, now we're talking into the demographics, because I think I've seen some films where they have special needs. Pardon me. Sorry about that. They have certain films where they have special need actors. I've seen some people that work at convenience stores that are special, but it's so rare for for the BIPOC community, the diaspora. Where's that? Where's those workshops at? Where are those people that are reaching out into our communities after, like you said, it could have been a botched thing that actually affected our body and our brain. And the best thing that you said also about the meltdowns, what I like to think of is, like, have you ever been so frustrated and not be able to express that? Say that to the person around you, the people you love? I mean, being nonverbal in and of itself has put us in a bind of sorts that are already so it's just not the same communication sphere. That's what I want to say. Now let's bring up the biggest example of what we've been looking at. I think Elon Musk first just came out on SNL saying that he's on the spectrum.
Yep.
And look at his work drive. Look at his work drive. Jerry Seinfeld on the autism spectrum. Like, a lot of people don't understand that. Look at his work drive. You know what I mean? Like, I put up a post a couple of months, and I named 5 famous people that people didn't even know had autism. So is my main thing was when you hear autism, when you hear Asperger's, when you hear all of these disabilities, that's where they stop at, and a lot of people in the world freezes on the word disability. Let's start looking at the capabilities, because there's so many capabilities that has come from our princess. You know, when they see disability, they hear disability, but then they get blinded to all the capabilities. There's so many capabilities within our children, within our young adults that's on the spectrum. And the proof is in the pudding. Like, you could Google right now how many people that we look at as far as artists, as far as actors, that was given a chance and given an opportunity, but they're on the spectrum, and you would have no idea.
Exactly. And would we even accept them if this title was attached to it? And that goes back to saying, how can I label something that came from me, some title that's arbitrary as autism? You know what I mean? If you look at the definition, it don't even connect to when you look at your daughter. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what we're all coming full circle here. So I love how you've defined your own brand. I love how you've switched it into your own thinking. That matters so much, because when people think of Puzzlelife, they may not think of the actual ideas and the rhetoric that comes with autism and special needs. They're going to think of capabilities. They're going to think of, power and stuff like that. I mean, if you think about it,
that's what the main thing is. It's like in Puzzlelife, everyone deserves a voice. And every time you see me speak, I'm the voice of my daughter, right? I'm speaking for my daughter. And you touched on something a second ago as far as the meltdowns. Can you imagine someone standing next to you and I, and we're verbally talking, we're celebrating, we're clapping, and they can hear this, and they can see this, and they move in their mouth, but nothing, it don't come out the same, right? So when princes have meltdowns, a lot of times, 9 out of 10, and I want society to start doing this, just imagine stepping in their shoes for that moment. That person's having that meltdown. Just imagine you not being able to express yourself. And you got so much that you want to say, so much you want to interact. You see everybody doing this, and everybody reacting off conversation, but that same reaction is not coming your way. So now a lot of times the meltdown is for attention. A lot of people don't realize that. Hey, I'm here. I'm standing here. Oh, I have a special need. I have a disability. Do you know I still can feel love? I still know, I can still receive love.
Yes.
See, a lot of people don't understand that, like, is disability. And that's what scares a lot of people, disability. Mm-hmm. Oh, because they have a disability, let's treat them differently. Let's pay attention when we want to pay attention. Oh, right. No. Oh no!
Right. That's a human being. That's a whole soul right there that's feeling all of that energy. Love is the universal language. Like you just mentioned that too. You're like, you don't think this person feels love, or when you're not being in love. In fact, I know for a fact Princess is a human lie detector, because if a certain people's energies is not right, she not with it. Not with it.
She's not with it. They just have it, and that's where I think God and faith comes in, because at the end of I use the word. Any autism warrior or any parent that's raising a child with special needs, and sometimes they don't feel it when they're at their low, they've been anointed for a mission. They've been anointed. And if you look at your Bible, if you're spiritually in your Bible, when you're anointed for something, that means God knows that you have a strength inside of you that you don't even know you have. You understand? Mm-hmm. So every day that I get up and fight for all those on the spectrum, I know that I'm fighting for a better tomorrow. I'm fighting for acceptance. I'm fighting for people to understand that one thing that's left out that's left out daily, that can solve a lot of problems, which is conversation that can lead to understanding, that can equal acceptance. But it all starts with conversation. You know what I'm saying? It goes back to a conversation that hopefully, right, that person can start understanding. And as they start understanding, they start accepting. Mm-hmm. It's a 3-way metaphor, and it's that simple, but it's all about mindset. We have to change the mindset. See, social media, right, unfortunately, has brainwashed our youth. It has damn near brainwashed half of the adults out here, because they believe everything they see, they follow everything they see, and it took the brand of leaders, right? Nobody wants to lead no more, right? What we have to go back to the era of leading. That's why I said it's very important to have podcasts like this, because you're having conversations about things that matter, conversations that should be happening daily in every household. When people walk around with Puzzlelife.voice, right? People think that my wife just created the clothing just to create the clothing. No, it's bigger than that. It's Puzzlelife.voice. Puzzlewear is the clothing with a voice, and we say this: when you see somebody wearing this, and when you go and when you walk into a neighborhood or a household, a conversation about special needs or autism is going to happen. That wasn't happening before, and if it did happen, it only happened in April. So now, when you stand on the street corner like this, and you got on Puzzlewear, yo, does that represent autism? Is that, yeah? And let me explain it. Let me talk to you a little bit about it if you don't know about it. Oh, okay, now I get it. Because my man or my sister or my cousin, yeah, they on the spectrum. I get it now. Damn, I didn't really know. It starts a conversation and it keeps a conversation going. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. No, that is absolutely. Yeah, I think Tarek's in and out, but no, I think
I didn't mean to lose y'all. I didn't mean to lose y'all when I went on the as far as the vaccine. The reason why I say vaccine, at the time Courtney had a vaccine, I didn't know, me being an African American young man, I didn't know that you can ask what's put inside the vaccine, right? I didn't know that till after. Now, one of the things that I know back then that was in the vaccines, and it shouldn't be a no vaccine, is Thermacell, right? Thermacell is a mercury, and we don't supposed to have mercury in our body at all, let alone we don't know how a child's brain develops with mercury. So Thermacells in vaccines. So that was one thing that's the one time where, as a parent, I blame myself. I felt like me not knowing, me not being educated enough to understand, like I have the right to ask a doctor, excuse me, what's in these shots. I didn't. Doctor said it was time for a vaccine. I followed protocol. After I did my homework and find out, you go up in a couple of, you get around other parents that lived this journey before you, and they start breaking down to you, and it's like, damn, I could have asked, what if the and I still battle with that. What if the Thermacell wasn't inside the vaccine? Would she be okay? But then I stopped because I said I wouldn't trade Courtney for nothing in the world.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade her for nothing in the world. So, that's where the mixed emotions come into it. Is like, was it my fault for not knowing? It just gets overwhelming sometimes, brother.
Yeah. No, hey, no worries at all.
Around the world, man.
No, hey, we're just so grateful to be able to have you on the show and to hear your story and to hear Princess's story and everything. And I must say, to kind of tie in what you're saying, what you said to us at the beginning of the show, and what you kind of said to me behind the scenes of sorts, and that was, there must be a reason as to why we're both on the show right now, right? As to why we're talking. And even though it wasn't expected, and even though it wasn't what we want, what you wanted, or anyone wants at that, there must be a reason as to why sometimes people might be a little different, but it doesn't mean that they're different in a bad way, right? It means that they are still human beings, and they are still incredible, and they still do amazing things. And I think one of my favorite things that a friend of mine told me once is that people who are on the spectrum can teach us things just like we can teach them things, and I think that's a really important thing.
He's absolutely right. Whoever your friend was, shout out to him, because like I said, Princess is only 10 years old. I don't know patience without Princess, because being a warrior, if you don't have patience, you've already lost this battle. That's the first thing that you need with this, because you better load up on patience. And I don't know unconditional love without this journey. I'm talking about, I know the true meaning of unconditional love now. I didn't know that before. This is like, it just rocks you in a different way, to where you have to become so, like, just imagine COVID-19 hit us last year. One thing that our kids are on the spectrum is they have repetitive behavior and they're routinish. Their routinish was snatched by the snap of a finger. How do you explain COVID-19 to our children on the spectrum? You can't. So the meltdowns that probably was like this before COVID was like this for the whole year. No, our mayor in New York City, he don't get what we're going through. You never see him go on the news and speak about parents raising kids with special needs. The mayor has never spoke about us. Never. He'll speak about mental illness, but mental illness is not autism. So you can't keep putting them all together. And that's how I know our mayor's not educated. He's not educated when it comes down to it. Just like when he say, go get the vaccine. We'll give you some free franchise. Go get the vaccine. We give you, you might win a lottery for some free Brooklyn Nets tickets. You got so many parents with kids with special needs that's scared of a vaccine because of what they feel could have happened to their kid. How you just keep throwing that out at us? Get the vaccine. You're not addressing those that's afraid of vaccines. Once again, it goes to us being left out. It's not inclusion. You're isolating us.
So that's what I meant to ask. So how did you start your foundation, and how's that all going? And how can we get involved? Let me know, man.
My wife and I, we started Puzzlelife.voice just to we started Puzzlelife.voice to have the conversation, to get the information out, to communities like ours that we felt they just didn't care about or they didn't want to have the information. Puzzleware, like I said, my wife, I came home from work one day, she was just fed up, and I just see her with a shirt on the bed. And at that time, Puzzlelife started with just fabric spray paint. You can remember, brother, from the beginning, right? And we would put puzzles, and we just put the message. Like, we wanted to be walking billboards. People would laugh at us, but we knew why we was doing it. And it grew from there. Now, that's 8 years ago. We 10 years in now, right? We're 8 years in now, mind you. Now, I go live, like I said, I go live every Thursday with my brother Snipe Life. Then Friday, I got Autism Warrior Chronicles on Instagram, to where I go live with an Autism Warrior parent around the world, and they share their journey. Because just because you met one child on the spectrum, believe me, you only met one child on the spectrum. None of our children is the same. So we learn from each other, we build from each other, we lead each other to what politicians we need to speak to. How can we change laws? How can we get sensory gyms in every public school? I'm fighting for a sensory park in the Bronx. We got right now, I want everybody to join in. We've been doing this since last year, but this year we took it to a different level because of Hall of Famer Ed Reed. Big shout out to Ed Reed, Hall of Famer. We got Walking in Place for Autism, which means, if you look at the hashtag, which you're taking 30 to 60 seconds out of your day, right, to acknowledge those with special needs and disabilities. You could walk, you could jog, you could jump, you could just wave your hand, it doesn't matter. Long as you use that hashtag and say, I'm taking 30 to 60 seconds out for those with special needs. And the reason why we wanted to do that, because we wanted to prove to the real warriors out there, you can't be fooled about those that come on board in April. Let me repeat myself. Everybody in America on April 1st goes blue. On April 2nd goes blue. Autism Awareness Month. Everyone. But we all know, how many of those people really know what autism is? How many of those people really are warriors, to where if they've seen us warriors, parents in trouble in the street, they know how to recognize it and come to our aid instead of laughing and staring and pulling out a phone? How many people? How many politicians you've seen go blue, autism awareness? Now, we're in May. I don't see those politicians talking about autism acceptance. Shout out to the ones that's still doing it. Ruben Diaz Jr., he's still talking about autism acceptance. But the point of Walking in Place for Autism is to let us know every day, all day, we know that we matter. We know that we have warriors around the world, whether you blood or not. You don't have to be blood to be family. If you look at my Instagram page and see the thousands of people walking in place for autism, the 8720 family, that's Ed Reed's whole crew, right? He got them doing it. Fat Joe. Shout out to Fat Joe. You know, shout out to Mike Geronimo. He's the first autism warrior. He's an autism warrior dad. Mike Geronimo, icon hip hop. Went on Drink Champs. Everybody, you know, went on Drink Champs to talk about the movement. So I respect those who have a platform and want to have the conversation. Because we know this is an uncomfortable conversation, but I'm a parent sharing a splash of my daughter's journey, right, with strangers. And I'm doing that because without the conversation, there's no acceptance. There's no acceptance. There's no understanding. You see how I could go, brother. Like I'm so passionate about this because I need people to understand we must get educated. 1 out of 54. 1 out of 54. That means it's in your neighborhood. That means it's in your community. That means you come across it whether you're on vacation or not. That means, okay, you don't have to be a parent to be a warrior for those with disabilities. And I want those that don't understand how hurtful this may be, those that use this phrase. When you walk up to an autism warrior or you walk up to a special needs parent and say, well, he or she doesn't look like they have autism, there's no face for autism. I know you probably don't mean harm by saying that, but it hurts us inside deeply for those that do say that. So if you are one of those that do say that, please understand what you're saying. She or he doesn't look like they have autism. What does autism look like? You understand? Like they have to take that moment and how hurtful that is for us. You know, like I said, it happens from time to time, and I try to bring that knowledge to them and let them know. That's not really a question you ask. That's not even a question. That's not nothing you say to a parent that's raising a child with special needs. There is no face. What do you mean? What does autism look like? Is it a certain thing you're looking for? But then you go back to understanding that person didn't have the knowledge. That person didn't have a conversation. So how do you educate? You don't educate by getting mad and yelling at everyone who's not educated. You have conversations like these.
Yep.
And I commend y'all. You and Turk, man, y'all my guys. Because like I said, and as you see, this conversation wasn't even scheduled. It happened on the fly, but everything happened for a reason. And one thing about me is I never hesitate to get the message out. To let people know how important it is to stay in this battle with us. This is not a trend. You don't come out April 2nd and act like you're marching with us and then you leave May 1st. This is not a trend. This is livelihood. This is our life. We go through this every day. So I don't think I don't think it's fair to us as warriors for those paparazzis that come into our life and see what we go through, because that's what I call them, paparazzis. You're just coming in to get a flick or two and see what we're going through, but you're not willing to sit down, join the conversation, and get the message out with us. I don't think that's fair.
That's a fact. And that's why you started the hashtag, right? How's the hashtag growing? And how have you used marketing to kind of help you along your journey?
Well,
entrepreneurship is the first step, it seemed like. Next thing is marketing.
Well, with me, when I go into, all the marketing you see is my wife and I. And as far as the gloves and the boxes, as far as because we got this and we got to knock the stigma out of autism, because that's the main thing. We're trying to knock this stigma out of autism. Shout out to my brother and my partner, Put Up Your Dukes, and his wife, because the gloves don't happen without them. It's such a stigma. So we're trying to knock this stigma out. And as far as marketing, that's just me and my wife getting up every day. I must go into 100 DMs, or I'll go into 100 people's DMs every day. And I speak to them as a father and an advocate. I don't go into their DM as a fan, because I'm not doing that. And I'm never going to beg you for an acceptance. That's not anything that I should have to beg for. For you to accept kids, to accept our kids with special needs, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna let you know, brother, you have a platform. I see XYZ on your platform. Me being a warrior and an advocate, I know when I go out in these streets and when I'm trying to reach the youth, because you know the youth is the hardest individuals mentally to reach when it comes down to positivity. They levitate to negativity like a magnet. When you talking positivity now, they'd rather hear it from their favorite rapper, their favorite actor, their favorite athlete. If they say it is golden. So that's why I be telling these athletes and rappers, I challenge you, right? Once a week, twice a week, show something encouraging on your Instagram. You got millions of kids that don't even listen to their mother and father, but they go by what you say. You know, can you imagine if half these rappers said, do your homework when it comes down to learning what special needs is. Stop being a bully, or, you know, pick your pants up. Watch your language around elders. Start holding the door for elders. Be a young man. If they said it, do you know half of the youth would do it? You know, when I go out on the corner, sometimes I'm just a father and an advocate, right? I'm going out on the fly, hoping that they listen. See, but I always get encouraged because if it's 20 there, right? And if I get one individual to listen to me about autism acceptance, I did my job. Because that one individual, when I leave, he's going to turn around and talk to the masses. He's going to go home and talk to his parents, talk to his friends. It's all about reaching one. If you can reach one every day, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. And that's my goal. That's me and my wife's goal, to reach one every day. And if you look on my page, we don't reach, I think we're doing a pretty good job, man. Shout out to my Puzzlelife family. I don't say nobody individually because they all are family. So shout out to the whole Puzzlelife family, and shout out to every special needs family across the globe. You're not alone. We are one. Because a lot of times they feel like I'm not having this conversation. I done had this conversation 100 times. They don't get it. They're not gonna get it. They act like they get it. So I understand where that part comes from. But we got to stay in their face and get things done when it comes down to our children and making a better tomorrow for our kids.
Yeah, wow, that was it's so powerful, everything that you're saying here, and learning more about this, I think, is exactly right, because I'm sitting here and knowing someone, you know, my mom's an educator, my mom's a teacher. And so I have been around this for most of my life as well. I've known what autism is. I know what being on the spectrum is, and everything. And as Tarek said as well. And so being able to know that is one thing, but it's also being able to be aware of it, right? And to be able to educate others, but also to continue to educate yourself. Because as I sit here, I'm still learning things from you and from maybe even what Tarek has said throughout the show. And I think that's really important too, is to be able to sit here for someone who is in my position and be able to listen, and to be able to, for all of our listeners, for all of our viewers, all of our subscribers, I hope that you are listening to this show and you are listening and are allowing yourself to be more aware, right? Because anyone, no matter where you go, could be on the spectrum. But that shouldn't change your way of life. You should be able to be kind to everyone, right? You should be able to be educated and be aware of your surroundings. You know, it shouldn't change if you are already doing the right thing. And I think that's a really important thing. And when it comes to marketing and everything, and from what I've noticed from your page, I love the different things that you are doing with the hashtags. I love the fact that you are having the boxing gloves and everything, knocking the stigma out. And I was thinking that today when we confirmed to have you on the show tonight. I was thinking, you know, stigma, the word stigma, and everything that falls around it and lies into this big pot of stigma, right? And there's so much stigma when it comes to individuals who are on the spectrum. And it is quite possibly, no, it is one of the most unfortunate and saddening things to know that there's so much stigma around there. And I can't even begin to imagine what it must feel like to be a parent of someone who is on the spectrum and all that stigma that is falling onto your lap. And to have a child who is on the spectrum and all the stigma, even, twice as much stigma that's falling onto their lap. And so I applaud you for everything that you're doing with puzzlelife.voice and everything that every individual is doing across the globe. It's you mentioned something earlier, and that is simply just, if you can reach one person, right? If you can reach one person a day, it means you're doing something right. And what's great about that one person is then that one person is going to tell another one person, and that one person is going to tell another. And it's, next thing you know it, you're reaching thousands.
There's a domino effect.
Yep. And that's powerful. And that goes for anything that, needs to be heard, deserves to have awareness spread. And I think being able to, Yep.
I want to challenge your listeners, right? When they finish this interview, I want to challenge your listeners to go to 3 hashtags when this is over, just to see the impact of what we do. One of the hashtags is knock the stigma out of autism. Knock the stigma out of autism. That's one hashtag. Knock the stigma out of autism. The other hashtag is, you already know, walking in place for autism. Walking, knock the stigma out of autism. Walking in place, because a lot of people put walk, and I don't know why they put walk. The hashtag that we're using that attached to us is walking in place for autism. And the last one, Puzzlelife.voice.
The other hashtag, everybody. For sure. Yeah, this has been some enlightening stuff. Yeah, I didn't want to reiterate everything that you had done on that show, but
I'm gonna give you one more. Where you was able to enter the lives of parents that shared their journey. That would be Autism Warrior Chronicles. That's the show with all the episodes. Autism Warrior Chronicles.
Yeah, I was gonna bring up. I was like, the only thing I could think of back in the day, autism was.
Yeah, when they do the hashtag Autism Warrior Chronicles, put it all together as one hashtag, and y'all get to see the many parents that we've impacted, the many parents that know that their voice need to be heard. And I tell every parent, you have the last say when it comes down to your child. You are the ultimate warrior for your child. So if you don't get up and fight for your child, don't expect someone else to fight harder than you. I mean, that's a lot of parents don't understand what I mean by that. So is you have to be the one going out there literally fighting for your child. If you know your child needs X, Y, and Z, and they telling you no, and you know as a parent, well, you got to go over their head to get your child X, Y, and Z. You never settle when it comes to, because that's one thing with me and my wife, we never settle when it comes to Courtney. Our school, when we coming into school, I already know who we are when we come. I don't settle when it comes to Courtney. Our doctors know exactly who we are, what I'm gonna ask them, and what it needs to be done. Like, I don't settle when it comes to her. We're not doing that no more. We did that in the very beginning and got us nowhere. Now, at the end of the day, they already know, okay, we're sitting across 2 individuals that's very educated about it, and they're gonna second guess everything that we tell them, so let's come correct. So as parents, please, if you feel something's wrong, do not wait for services for your child. And if you're in the early stage of it, I can't stress this enough. Early intervention is important. Early intervention is important. That's when they come to your house up to the age of 3, which we're trying to change the laws. I think it should go to the age of 6, 7, because how much information can a child process at the age of 3? But, you got to give, we'll take what they give us for now. But until the age of 3, they come to your house. You get in services, ABA therapy, speech therapy. After 3, you gotta fight for all this. But in the early stages, early intervention played a big part as far as with Courtney, as far as, you know, her physical therapy and her speech therapy. And a lot of parents don't understand the importance of early intervention because, like I said, the stigma, or they don't want their kid labeled, or you'll be surprised how many parents are in denial if their kids are on the spectrum. They tell the doctor don't know what they're talking about. And now you're not giving your child a proper help. You're not putting your child in a proper environment to excel, right? And now that's when bullying is being taking place and miscommunication is taking place. So I want to encourage parents, care less about the outside noise. Your main concern should be your child. I could care less what anybody got to say outside the doors. I know I'm fighting for my princess. Only God can judge me. There's nobody walking on this earth that's God. So like I said, stop listening to the outside noise. Stop listening to the outside noise. You're only hurting yourself and your child.
Yeah, I think that's a great big topic. And like I said, I can't wait to have you back on and just keep up with your process, man.
We gotta do this properly.
This is something you know, Caleb will put you on our monthly show. You know, we can also do pre-recordings, of course. Definitely. But what I was going to say was, you know, I wanted to just talk about, you know, those parents that are denying. I wonder how that feels, you know, on the grander scheme of things. And then you got the whole society denying them as well their proper place. And also I've noticed, like you said, you've incorporated other disabilities as well. And I know Princess has gained some friendship and community in her own network as well, due to certain things like that. So how helpful do you think it is to be around others like themselves, or other parents like yourself, and creating network and community?
That's why if you look on I've been fighting for a community center for God knows when. I done found spaces, and the reason why I feel the community center is important, because in that community center you got all special needs parents together as one, right? In that community center, you have a space where our kids is communicating with those that's just like them, and they know how to communicate. They get each other. Then you have parents that's able to let steam off, that's able to sit across from somebody and be like, wow, wait a minute, I could talk with somebody that's living this journey, that gets it, that understand that, no, it's not me complaining. It's not me just being overwhelmed. They get it. Like, autism affects the whole home. I don't think the world understands that. It affects every child, every individual in your home, right? So when we have that safe place, if we ever get that safe place, it gives us an opportunity of hope. It gives us the opportunity of feeling like we belong as one. And then in the Puzzlelife voice, I'm learning about things from other parents. I had no idea the ins and outs about Down syndrome. One of our warriors that I was able to meet, you know, he's doing walking in place for autism, but, you know, his son has Down syndrome. So when we connect, he's telling me, you know, what he has to go through on a daily basis as far as, you know, the bones, you know, the way the bones grow, the way the diet got to be, about Down syndrome. I'm learning about Asperger's, ADHD. Like, that's why autism is a spectrum. There's so many levels to this. You can have high sensory, low sensory. You could be verbal. You could be nonverbal. So, like, I learned something from all these different conversations that we created with this platform with these parents. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
I mean, I commend you, man. That's amazing. That's super amazing, man. I think that's the next move, man. Building that fund so we can open up that community center. That'll be the best move. I know you spoke about how some of the playgrounds for autistic children also aren't up to par as well. So I think you'd be a pioneer in making that something a lot less trending, like you said. And
I'm gonna keep my fingers crossed. Supposedly, shout out to William Rivera. He's running for council in the Bronx. But shout out to William Rivera. I put up a blueprint last month. You know, we're supposed to get our first sensory park on private property, which is in on the grounds where I live at. I don't want to jinx it until I told them I won't be excited until I see the shovel in the dirt. But that's supposed to be.
Don't count those eggs yet before they hatch. I understand.
But on that topic is amazing. special needs, disabilities, autism has been here for years, centuries. We know this. Why the hell is there not a sensory park in every borough? They can never answer this. They tried to say we had a sensory park in Pelham Bay. Newsflash, that's a garden. It's a garden. It's not a slide. It's not a swing. It's not shade. It's not a lock gate. It's not a sensory park. It's a garden. So my thing is, they want to say that they gave us this or they did this for us. And then when we go there and see it as parents, it's not there. And I keep telling our local politicians, when are you going to get parents and advocates like us working in these positions? When are you going to, because obviously things can get done when you got passionate parents, right, that live the journey, picking up the phone call from another parent with a child with autism. They will get things done. When you have somebody that's just certified with a piece of paper and feel like, I'm only doing this for 8 hours. Okay, I show passion to this caller. Next call, I gave all my passion to that caller. See, there's a lot of things that they don't talk about when we go through. There's the email game. There's we give you a callback game. And the biggest part of it, when it comes to getting our kids in school, that waiting list game could be damn near 2 years to get inside of a great school could take 2 years.
I didn't even know that. Yeah, I had no idea.
Co-op City is the best school in the Bronx as far as for the next level, as far as junior high school, right? It's 2 years to get in there. Off the gate, you pick up the phone, they let you right there. 2 years to get in there. So if that's a great school, why not build another great school like that? See, this is where it'd be like they just want to have us wait and sit at the back of the line or make us feel like we're begging for help. I don't feel any autism warrior, any special needs parent. Listen to me closely when I say this. Don't you ever beg for acceptance for your child, and don't you ever, ever, ever beg for help, ever. Because you ain't got to beg for your child to be accepted. That's one thing we ain't gonna do. Don't ever beg for your child to be accepted. Now you take receipts. If you feel you're being disrespected, if you feel your local leaders who you stood online and voted for, who said they are for the people, which is us, and you go to them for help, and you get no help, you hold them accountable. Excuse me, what happened? I stood online, I voted for you. You knew this is dear to my heart. This is what I'm going through. I don't see nothing in the budget. I don't see you marching. I don't see you talk. Hold them accountable, just like I do. Hey, Richie Torres, the Alexis Acostas. Y'all know I'm on y'all. Y'all know I don't play. We got to do this again. I just love y'all energy. Just for the simple fact.
Yeah, we're doing this again. You know that. We're doing this again.
I love wisdom. And your show represents wisdom, and your podcast represents realness, man. And I can't stress enough, the world needs more realness. We need more real conversations, man. Real conversations.
Right. So true.
So I guess as we wrapping up for the the end of this, how would you identify yourself, and how do you this is usually like a last tagline question we hit people. How would you identify yourself?
I feel like I'm an alpha male for autism acceptance. I'm an alpha. I'm like, God has anointed me for a mission, not just for my daughter, but for all those that deserve a voice. And I'm up for the challenge, because at the end of the day, once I got into this challenge, I knew that it's so much work to be done. So I think I'm anointed. I'm an anointed warrior for autism acceptance, and I try my best to be a hell of a dad and a hell of a husband.
That's all we can ask for. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you on the show. I appreciate you speaking for Princess. As one day we'll have her on the show. And I know she ain't gonna sit still. She's like, man, listen, I ain't sitting there bothering with y'all on this.
So we'll get on there, though. I'll make sure she
crap. One day we'll do a show. And I think what we're gonna keep doing is just keep raising funds, keep raising awareness. We're gonna hopefully get that community park for autism. And
please, for anybody interested in the puzzleware, please, you go
also take a look at that.
You can go to Puzzlelife Voice on Cash App. It's Puzzlelife Voice. Puzzlelife Voice on Cash App. You could go on Instagram. All the clothing is on Instagram. You DM us, we send it out within 48 hours. So please, and like I said, tune in. All it takes is to tune in, and I'm pretty sure if you tune into a couple of our conversations, you will become a warrior.
That's a
And
fact.
I want to thank both of you guys just for having me and letting me talk autism acceptance. We in May. How many people still talking about autism acceptance? How many
Exactly.
politicians are still talking
How many
about
times
it?
am I still posting these posts? I'm not playing. It wasn't a trending thing for me. I
You're
definitely
a
didn't
real
walk in
one.
place. I
You're
gotta
a
do
real
that
one.
though. I'm gonna do the hashtag though. Caleb, we should
But
do it. We should
yeah,
definitely
let me
walking
tell
in
you something.
place.
Makes both of y'all real. Shout out to both of your mothers, right? Who's been working with our kids with special needs, who've had the conversation with y'all, who've taken you around kids with special needs. That's why y'all get it. That's why y'all recognize it. And that's why y'all genuinely love our kids. So I want to say shout out to both of your mothers. All right. So big shout out to them, man, for like I said, for loving our kids genuinely. Because not every teacher, not every caretaker loves our kids, and y'all know that. And that's a different conversation for the
Yeah,
next
that's a
time.
whole nother. That's a whole nother
Next
podcast.
episode.
I mean, the way they're
Big shout
treating
out
the
to both of
elderly.
your mothers,
I mean,
man.
healthcare
Big
is
shout out
a
to both of
lot
your
going
mothers.
on. Shout out to the young man that also, I think the police had shot him, and he was autistic. There's a couple of times that this has happened. I forgot the young man's name, but
Elijah
shout out to
McLean.
that. Is that his name?
That was the one out in Colorado, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the most recent. I mean, between
Yes.
the tasing, between just everything that's been going on, this is the last thing we needed to hear. So just if there was more interest in conversation about what that was, and maybe if it was, I wouldn't even give them the benefit of the doubt. But whatever it
Well, that's
was,
why that like I said, that's very and big shout. I will say this: big shout out to Inspector Ramsey, 43rd Precinct. We are doing the first Puzzlelife.voice 43rd Precinct panel, which means there's going to be 5 special need families, 5 officers sitting across from us, having a conversation of what our fear is, how they don't need to be aggressive, how shining a light can trigger, how tone can trigger. So we had to have these conversations. So I want to say big shout out to the 43rd Precinct for being the first precinct to reach out to me and say, okay, let's do this. Because we really need to have this conversation before anyone
wow,
else.
is that a public conference, or is that something that you're gonna
That's public.
record? Because that sounds awesome.
I'm making that
Yeah,
public, and I will be speaking on it more. They just signed off on it, so I
that's
will be
awesome,
doing it.
man.
So it's a panel, like I said, and I just need the parents to show up because you have a lot of parents that they so angry with the cops. Okay, but we need the conversation. They need to see what the fears are. What are they doing wrong? How can they change? And we already know they wasn't having conversations like this in the academy. They didn't say, okay, now when you come across a kid with special needs or a child with sensory issues, you can't shine a bright light. Or do they know that our kids will never understand what police protocol is? See, these are conversations they need to know. Okay, they're not going to understand freeze, don't move, sit down. No, not our kids.
Sometimes I barely understand that.
You understand? So big shout out to this, to the 43rd for wanting to do that Puzzlelife panel. And let's keep building, man. Let's keep building, man. You brothers are, I got number love for you brothers, man. Thank you. Y'all have humbled me today. I'm glad I did do it. I'm glad I did do it today.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you did too. So, Caleb, go ahead and wrap us up, man.
Sounds great. Well, we really do appreciate you coming on to the show. This was, I think, such a great platform to be able for our listeners, our subscribers, our viewers to be able to hear the message that needs to take place, right? The awareness, but also allows for Puzzlelife.voice to be able to continue to raise awareness for something that needs to be heard by everyone and needs to be educated towards the youth and really just everyone as well. And so we're very grateful to have been able to have Puzzlelife.voice on the show here. Of course, you've been listening, watching, and as always, being able to just stay up to date with the Identity Podcast right here for the Identity Podcast. It has been great. Autism Awareness featuring puzzlelife.voice. It has been just such a joy to be able to have Kyle and Puzzlelife.voice here on the show. Of course, every week, Wednesdays at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, you can listen and watch the Identity Podcast via Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, all at the Identity Podcast. Of course, you can check out the Identity Podcast on all streaming platforms, and you can follow the Identity Podcast on all social media platforms as well. And of course, you can listen to the Identity Podcast on Brick Media every Tuesday. And if you love the Identity Podcast and want to sponsor us, well, guess what? You can. All you have to do is email us at press@findyourdnyc.com, and we'll get back to you with more details. Of course, stay tuned to the Identity Podcast every single week as we post all kinds of different promos. We post different clips from every week's episode, and we're constantly just posting fun things to be able to interact with all of you, our listeners, our viewers, and also to continue to raise awareness for everything that we cover on the show, because we are all about discovering each other's identities, right? Identity is this term that's constantly, it's very fluid, right? It's constantly changing. Each and every day, we get to add a new lens to our identity. And today we got to learn about this thing that is so important and needs to be heard, and yet it's not heard. It's not being educated. And we get to raise awareness. And that's on, that's on autism, and that's on the spectrum. And that is really, really important. So again, we're so grateful for Puzzlelife.voice doing what they are doing, and for allowing us to have them on the show. And so we're so grateful to continue to work with you and to continue to help and be a part of this movement, right? As a big thing. And so we're very grateful. Of course, you've been listening, watching the Identity Podcast. I am Caleb, one of your co-hosts, along with my fellow and always lovely co-host, Tarek. We're so grateful to always be here for the Identity Podcast.
Kyle, man.
Catch next week. Don't forget to catch next week's show with Kanchan Singh. We're very excited, an author, to have her on the show next week, May 26th, the very last episode of the month. So we're very grateful for that. And of course, don't forget to check out the social media, puzzlelife.voice PG2. That's page 2. Check it out. Follow them on Instagram. Really great stuff what they're posting. And of course, check out the hashtags that they have as well. All these hashtags above are hashtags that puzzlelife.voice challenges you, and we challenge you as well to be able to take place, walking in place for autism, to help knock out the stigma out of autism, to simply just have be part of the puzzle and everything. And of course, Autism Warrior Chronicles as well. Once again, you have been watching and listening to the Identity Podcast. We're so grateful for everyone as always. Thank you. We'll catch you next week.